It's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's sourdough. Hey, it's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's also a show.
Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of Breaking Bread with Tom Papa. I am Tom Papa. Thank you for being here. We've got a great show for you today. We've got a great comedian all the way from India, Veer Das. Very funny, very thoughtful. He's got a new special on Netflix called Landing. It's really good. He's really good. It's so impressive when you listen to his story. You're going to be very impressed. He's very thoughtful, but there's also, I can't imagine like being so huge in one place, and then it's humbling to come to a brand new country and reboot, and it's like, imagine being like this gigantic star, and then you come over here and it's like, who's this guy? That is not where he's at now. Now he's at a point where people really do know him, but to like nail it and then come and then like, okay, I'm going to go conquer this market, you've got to be a little humble. And he is. He's very, very smart, very thoughtful. You're going to love his comedy. The special is really great. And the special is somewhat in response to a bit of a kerfuffle that he went through, where he went to the Kennedy Center and he read this poem about his country, about India, and it caused a big stir. And he kind of went through the firestorm of people reacting in very exaggerated ways on social media and in the press. And he had to kind of suss that all out and respond comedically. And that's kind of what this special is. It's very funny. You're really going to like it, and you're going to really like this conversation. Go to tompapa.com, look up all of my tour dates. I'm running all over the country. I am going to the Kennedy Center soon. I think that might be sold out, but we've got Chicago, we've got Denver, we've got Scranton, Pennsylvania, we've got New York, we've got the Borgata in Atlantic City. We're coming back there on Memorial Day. We're going to start the summer off right at the Borgata at the Jersey Shore. So go to tompapa.com, look up all of that good stuff. Of course, What a Day is streaming on Netflix. It's new home. So go watch the special and enjoy. I am excited to wrap up this podcast because on my way home, I get to stop at the Italian deli where I have this is one of the treats of doing this podcast. Is right around the corner is one of my favorite LA Italian delis, this Monte Carlo, and they have guanciale, which isn't carried in my supermarket, and I am going to be making a carbonara tonight, which is very exciting. Carbonara. A little egg, a little guanciale, a little pecorino, a little bucatini pasta, a little pasta water. Mwah! Simple and amazing. So I'm going to stop there and get it. If you don't know what guanciale is, it's kind of the inside pork cheek. I know. I'm hearing my vegetarian family yelling and screaming. I know. But for those who are not offended by that, it is one of life's complete joys. I like just walking through that deli. It's just, and there's an Italian newspaper an Italian-American newspaper, but all in Italian. A couple things in English, but mostly Italian. And I like to get it and walk out and then like kind of try and read some of it. I've been trying to learn a little more Italian here and there, which means not really, but I do like the moment of get the guanciale, get some provolone, get some burrata, load up on some stuff. I always want to buy enough stuff where they have to give me a box on my way out. Then I know that I've actually done something. And then this is purely just ego and me. I just grab the newspaper, which is for free, grab the newspaper and wave goodbye and walk out. And in my mind, I think they think, oh, he's legit. he even speaks Italian. And they know I get home and it'll be on my counter and I won't be able to understand much of it at all. But I'm very excited to go do that. I have a vegan friend coming over on Sunday, and I was like, I'll make food for you. I can do it. And she's like, nah, we can go out. I don't think she's really interested in my tofu ginger attempts. She's like, yeah, I know what you do, guanciale. We're going to do vegan out. Veer Das, great comedian, great conversation. I love just hearing his journey because it's unlike, I would say, any comedian that we've had on this program. It's totally unique. How do you come from India, a place where comedy is just emerging, and become one of its biggest stars? You'll find out when we talk with Veer Das.
I think he's going to get some tech. I love the special, by the way. How's it doing?
Thank you.
You happy with how it turned out?
Yeah,
response and all of that stuff?
Yeah,
Great.
it's good. It's it feels like it built on the last one, and now last night I went and did the Comedy Magic Club, which is
I've been there.
You've been there, yeah.
Yeah.
Just because I've been doing all these little 15-minute spots everywhere.
Yeah.
So last night I got to see what do I have now? I did an hour, so I was gonna see like how much have we accumulated since the special.
Do you have enough?
Yeah, I have enough.
I have 7 minutes. I'm so terrified. And I go on tour March 1st. So I have time.
You got some time.
Yeah.
I'm next week.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need
It came up fast.
You need about 40-45 minutes at the very least, right?
Yeah, at the very least. Yeah. And it felt good. It was like, all right, we're in good, we'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to be okay now. It's so bad.
How's the reaction been to the special?
Really good.
Good.
Really good. I mean, we can talk about it, but...
We're rolling.
All right. Are we?
Yep.
Oh, great. The aim behind the special was to make both sides laugh, whether you love my content or whether you don't love my content. And touch wood, we've been okay. It's been 3 weeks and both sides seem to be laughing.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Do you check comments? Do you... I mean, we all get a sense.
I think I'll check Twitter, which is maybe not the best place to check at all. So I'll do the hashtag of the special and I'll go down to see what people are saying.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know, but I think Twitter's become meaner than the comments. Twitter's like comments with good grammar, is Twitter. So I think Twitter kind of hardens your soul a little bit.
Yeah.
But comments is just comments, right? So then you go down that dive. But Twitter, you can be like, okay, I hate you, news. Something's happening in Aruba or whatever.
Well, you had this thing, just for my listeners, we talked a little bit about it on the radio show, but you did a very controversial video at the Kennedy Center, called Two Indias.
Yeah.
And it was the end of your set, and you went up and you read basically a poem.
Yeah.
That explained all the good things and bad things of
it was
your homeland.
Sort of an ode to my people in my country.
It was really nice. It was really, I mean, even being detached and not knowing exactly some of the elements, which I'll ask you about in a bit, the thrust of it was really moving and cool and great.
Yeah.
But I'm using that as a way to bounce off of the comments discussion because you got hit with a ton of comments off of that.
Yeah, no, it's a weird thing. So when I'm talking about this, I'll say as much as I can without starting another news cycle for myself.
Right.
If that's all right. Because that's just something I have to be mindful for as well. Because, the first cycle was a shitstorm, as we talked about, right? But I did this video, and it was it's kind of like many videos that I've put up on my YouTube channel. And for some reason, and I still can't tell you why, and I don't think you get to predict why you strike a chord sometimes. And and this struck a chord and is getting a lot of love. And then 3 days into it, I think we all have the angry news channel in our country. So you have yours, we have ours, and they picked it up and did something about it. And angry news channels lead to angry people, and angry people lead to angry comments, and angry comments lead to angry stuff. So it was very stressful. And then, I just kind of had to go underground for a bit, for about 2 months.
Explain to me the stress of it.
The most stressful thing was feeling like you let people down. I should clarify that. But there were complaints. They were saying take his passport. There were I think some people had filed sort of complaints against me, and you were getting your hate mail and all of that stuff, right? So at that point, I think you don't know what's real anymore. When you're at the center of that. And I was just told, listen, turn your phone off and turn it on after a while. And if it's still going, then you're fucked.
Right? That's a good strategy.
That's a good strategy, right?
Yeah.
So I was told by people who've been through these things before, they're like, you'll have your time in the sun. Right? And then you go to the back of the line and hope it's a really long line.
Yeah.
And I think anybody who's creating art or has their time in the sun.
Sure.
Right? But they were like, it's a 6-day cycle usually.
6 day?
Yeah, and if you're still kind of trending on Twitter after 6 days, you're fucked.
Right.
And on day 6, like somebody just went and turned the light off, thankfully.
And it was off.
It was off. But I turned my phone off for, I think, about 2 months, because I think, to go from that into something, I think I really learned the hard way what it means to be a comedian this year, because we go for the laugh, and we never know what's going to get the laugh and what's not going to get the laugh, or what's going to get the powerful laugh. And then I had this situation, and I was like, okay, I have to talk about it, because the next time anybody sees me on stage, they're going to be thinking about it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. What's your reaction?
But I'm never going to talk about it on the news. I'm never going to talk about it on anything else.
Yeah.
It has to be a joke.
Right.
So for 3 months, I could not think of a joke. Because how do you write this elusive joke that brings everybody to the table, irrespective of how they felt about your content, and casts you as the idiot in the joke? Never lionizes you, never victimizes you.
Right.
Puts you just as the idiot.
In the safe idiotic space.
In the idiotic space, right? And then I think I saw 2 or 3 things. I saw Chris Rock make a statement saying, when you want to hear about the Oscars, you come see my special. Or you come see my show. And I was like, okay, that's something.
Right.
I was telling somebody, but I saw there's a documentary called Conan O'Brien Just Can't Stop. And it's about how when he was dealing with the Tonight Show situation, he just pivoted that into a show. Yeah. Right. And in a really cool way, he never talked about whether it was fair or unfair. I've yet to see him talk about whether it was fair or unfair, what happened to him.
That's a good point.
He just made it funny. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, fair, unfair doesn't matter anymore. Right. Is this a funny story? And is this an interesting story? And so I think I've told you this, but the first joke I wrote was 3 months later. I just kind of woke up in the morning and it was like, all right, I was on the BBC homepage in England, and the BBC homepage said, comedian polarizes the nation. Do you know how badly you have to fuck up before the British say that you divided India? And then I was like, okay, at least that's a tone, right? So I'm the idiot. I fucked up. Both sides can agree that we hate the British. And hopefully now there's a way to go. So then it formed at least an in into the special. The special is about a lot more, but it's kind of, it checks in with this story about 3 times or 4 times.
But tell me about you learned how to get out of trouble being a comic. Yeah. The thing that got you in trouble wasn't really that comedic. No. It was really just from the heart. Yeah. Yeah. What is your view as a comedian? What put that paper in your hands? What made you write that? And
I couldn't
sit
tell you.
And do it.
I tend not to.
Is it part of the comedian that just wants to relate and just is?
I don't think I was doing it as a comedian. I think I was just doing it as a person.
As a person,
and I think my YouTube channel is a healthy mix of like. I actually don't put that much stand-up on YouTube. So I'll put like music, or I'll put like different sorts of things. So I think it was one of those things. But we honestly just didn't expect it. You know, it's like. My wife and me, we were touring DC, and we were at some monuments, and
Yeah.
you know, the show was at 7:30, and at 4 p.m. I kind of wrote this piece down, and I went to my wife and I was like, should we do this? And she's like, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And then,
maybe the DC is probably a part that bothered them.
yeah, maybe. And then
right?
we
Being
found
in another
like,
country and.
I don't think so, because the YouTube channel is, 98% of the views on that video have come from within India. So I don't think that's and I've done videos abroad as well. And most of the crowd is Indian too. So I don't think it was that. It's just, it encapsulated the entire year of events. Maybe that was that. But I mean, my rule is simple. Any feedback is good feedback. Any feedback is valid feedback. I'll take it head down, mouth shut.
Right.
And I'll never critique my content. That's your honor as an audience member. And I have to honor however you felt about that. That's valid.
Right.
My job is to just take that and see if I can learn from it or pivot it into something funny. So that's kind of how I think your survival instinct kicks in, and that was my process to say, it's all valid. It's all good.
Yeah.
However you feel. If you feel, I'm sorry if I hurt you, and I'm happy if I made you feel something.
Right.
And now let's go to the stupid.
The special's so good, and it's kind of like the Conan thing with he never really had to address it.
Yeah.
It's like you just moving forward with your comedy and just going, it was like, how can you not like this guy? You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this is not, because I bet a lot of the people that were angry probably it wasn't your fans that you turned off. It was just people that were watching the angry news stuff. And, maybe there's some of it. But I mean, the people that were new to you and because of the thing, then they see this special and they're like, all right.
Yeah, I think so. But also I think that's par for the course in terms of getting a slightly wider audience of, earlier this many people used to watch stand-up.
Yeah.
And as this thing grows, and it really has in the last 4 or 5 years, now there's that many more people at the table. And there's going to be like nascent reactions to things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I'll have people sometimes come out wherever I am touring, and they've never been to a comedy club before. They've never seen a comedy show before. They just came in because, that guy from that Bollywood movie, let's go.
Right. Yeah.
And then they're like, why is he talking about his dick so much?
What kind of show is this?
Or they're like filming during the show because they don't know it's protocol to not film a stand-up comedy show, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just par for the course where you have to deal with these things, but the blessing is the larger audience.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And exactly. And the more there are people, the more you're going to have those comments. It's just the way it's going to go.
Like I said, it truly just kind of, I had to learn what it meant to do this.
Yeah.
And any sort of safety net I had was yanked away. And, sometimes you go for profundity or it seeps into your material, etc.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm previously guilty of indulging those pauses or indulging those silences, and suddenly that was also taken away from me in this special as well, where I'm like, yo, if I have a silence, I better have a big ass laugh around the corner or something silly around the corner,
right?
Because I can't take that leeway anymore. So
what do you mean? Why with the silence?
Because it was really important to me that this special was comedically valid.
Just jokes. Packed with more jokes.
Packed with more jokes.
Right.
So I think there are 3 deep silences in it, and one where I throw like Aziz under the bus.
Right.
Aziz and Hassan under the bus. The other one, I'm being sodomized by a Frenchman like at the end of the silence, and the silence is the funny bit.
Right.
So it kind of took that away as well.
Right.
In that sense. Like, are you okay to sit in a silence? I'm not there yet as a comic.
I'm okay with it, but and I do it more when I'm touring.
Yeah.
But by the time the special comes, I'm editing so much out of it that it's just that there's not, my goal is to have not one line that's not funny.
Yeah.
And it just becomes a freight train. It just becomes, there's no real pausing. And I don't know. I mean, maybe there's something about like you said, you want it to be packed with jokes.
Yeah.
And especially recorded, it's like, I don't think they want you to just hang with you. They want to be kind of I mean, but then, Gerard Carmichael, he works that very well, but it depends on the pacing of what else you've got.
I think it works for him because of how personal it is.
Yeah.
And you can, that's something I've seen recently is, in a special, you have to feel the emotion, and in a live performance, you have to project the emotion. And in a comedy special, that's a tough line to walk.
Yeah,
because the camera never lies. So if you're not feeling it and it looks remotely theatrical, you can mess up your entire special because of a moment that was going for the third balcony. But the camera's like here, you know?
It is a strange thing. I was talking to a comedian the other day who he wants to record his special audio.
Okay.
And then animate the thing that you see. Because he said, I don't feel like I have to be that close to a comedian as you are in your specials. I don't want to be that close to the face. I don't want to be that,
Yeah.
And there's something to that. There is something to the, a little more distance. But then, you also want to lean in. I don't know. It's definitely an art form because, even when you go and you start editing and you start looking at your stuff, you're like, you start to lean in more towards what was happening that night that you weren't thinking about when you went into it.
I think also like one thing I'd love to do someday, because I directed this one, so I had 2 close-ups, and one of them was at a funny point and one of them was not. And typically it's the temptation of the director to be like, he's saying something confessional.
Right.
Now let's go in. Let's push in slowly. I just want to do a special where every time you talk about dicks, we push in slowly. Like just something stupid.
Yeah.
You push in slowly and then you just stay wide. But it is still a piece of cinema. Like I do draw the difference between a special and a live show. It has to compete with cinema.
Yeah. No, it has to look a certain way. It has to. I really believe I've used really good directors on them just for that reason. Because there was a time when it's almost like watching YouTube advance. In the beginning, it was just you could just film something shitty and people. And now it's really sophisticated and people are really spending time on it. It's the same with stand-up specials. For a while, they were just Comedy Central, just locking off and bringing comic after comic. Yeah. And now it's like, you gotta put some thought into every aspect of it.
I shot it and I was supposed to edit and deliver it in 4 weeks, which is really soon. If you're looking at yourself.
That's about where I was.
So I need like 10 days to not look at myself and like go away. And then the first time you press play, you're just like, oh God, please let this not be every nightmare I've had for 6 months. And then I put it on and I was like, all right, look, my hair looks fabulous. Let's go.
I don't look that fat.
That's all I need. I needed like one punch of vanity and I'm like, okay, now I can edit this thing.
It's really true. I baked you some bread.
What?
Yeah. I'm not sure. When do you leave LA?
I leave tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning?
Yes.
All right. Well, do with it what you will.
Can I try it now?
You can take a look at it. You can eat it. It's your bread.
Thank you, sir.
I baked this for you last night.
Yo.
And
this is incredible.
It's like naan bread but exploded.
So can we talk through, are you tired of talking through how this works?
Oh my God, never.
Yeah? Okay, so how long does something like this take?
3 days.
Okay. But then you have I know this is like a starter yeast, and then you have to grow it like a garden.
like an animal, like a pet dog.
This was alive.
It was alive as a gooey mass, and then you start to you feed it and
break this,
make it into dough, and then after it's dough, then it's bread. It's about 3 days because you got to get that yeast kind of active.
How many people in LA do you get to offer bread to on a weekly basis? Because isn't this, a sin in LA?
Yeah, it's there's a lot of closeted bread eaters in LA. No, it's yours. It's yours.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Lovely.
They throw it into your suitcase, bring it to New York.
Done. I'm gonna walk through JFK with some bread.
I did it. Gaffigan was on.
Okay.
And I gave him bread, and we had this great time together. And we didn't realize we were on the same flight going back to New York. And I saw him at the airport. We were both going to our cars, and he had the bread.
Nice. So he came through.
Yeah, watching him walk through the bread. Of course, Gaffigan's going to keep bread on him.
He might be, I think, the first stand-up DVD that I ever bought.
Ah, really?
It was the Hot Pockets.
Yeah.
And you have to understand, like in India, if you're a stand-up fan, at least when I was getting into stand-up,
yeah,
it was a task to get stand-up DVDs.
Really?
So you had to buy them on Amazon UK or Amazon US.
Wow.
And you had to wait 6 weeks for them to come to India.
Jeez.
So, and we had no idea who was popular or who wasn't. So you're just like, what's available? So I remember buying like Craig Shoemaker, Jim Gaffigan, John Pinette.
Yeah.
You know,
the great John Pinette.
And I had Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But then it was such a gamble because it cost so much to bring it to India.
Wow.
And if your shit wasn't good, it was so disappointing at a profound level because you're like, I waited 8 weeks for this.
So who were the comedians that what got you thinking comedy?
Eddie Izzard.
Eddie Izzard.
George Carlin and Richard Pryor.
Right. And
Those
where did you see them?
I saw Eddie Izzard, just DVDs.
Yeah.
There's a DVD called Dressed to Kill. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
But
I saw that off Broadway in New York.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Right. Raw and Delirious, and then not the one on Sunset Boulevard, but the other Richard Pryor one where before he had the fire.
Right.
Is it the Hollywood Bowl maybe? Which I think might be his best.
Yeah.
I just remember those.
And so was there comedy around when you were a kid? Or you?
I was in Africa. So I was in Lagos, Nigeria is where I grew up. So,
okay.
So you were getting like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor on television.
Right.
Because it was Nigeria, right? So, so that's just the first time I saw stand-up. And then I saw Russell Peters, when YouTube really began.
Yeah.
And I was just like, my God, I've never seen a brown man be this edgy and this hilarious.
Yeah.
And so he just kind of opened up a gate in my head,
I remember when that started to catch for him. It was
fire.
Yeah, it was like he unearthed a part of the globe that didn't really know comedy.
I think he went from the club to selling out, just arenas.
Yeah.
Without like theaters in between.
Yeah, I know. Way before anyone was doing it.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So how long were you there? How long were you in Africa?
In Nigeria, I was there. My parents were there for 17 years.
What did they do?
My dad, this is sexy as hell. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Pre-cut potatoes in tomato pulp.
Ooh.
That's my dad.
Nice.
Nice. As a baker.
Yeah, I get that.
Right.
I might be the only person that's actually turned on by that.
I can't have sex without them. That's my... so those were the two things that my dad did. My mom was a housewife who then became an environmentalist. She went back to college when she was 44.
Oh, nice.
And then they sent me to private boarding school in India. And then I was politely asked to leave boarding school.
At what age did they send you?
They sent me when I was 7 and a half, which is very young to go to boarding school.
Young, yeah.
And then I think I was kicked out when I was 12. And so I went to public school where my grandparents were.
Oh, really?
So I lived with my grandparents for 4 years.
So you weren't really around your parents?
Not until my final year of high school and first year of college.
What's that like?
We had a nice reunion, My dad, my dad came back, from Nigeria after a while, and he's like, you're kind of an asshole, and I was like, I know, but you should have, hi, it's good to see you.
Wow. And did you feel at the time, was it hard to when you're packing up at 7 and heading someplace, do you feel like
I used to,
they've left you? Do they feel like
I was very dramatic. I used to write them letters in red ink and be like, this is my blood. You've forgotten about me.
Oh my God.
So can you imagine your kid is across the world and you're sitting in Africa and you read this letter and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. But still not go get him.
Still not go get him. And I went because my sister's older than I was. So they were like, we'll just package deal, send them off. And I'm like, she's, 12. She's old enough to go to boarding school.
Yeah.
I'm not.
What do you think their thinking was? That there was just better schools there? Or they wanted you?
They wanted us to have an Indian education.
Right.
And it was important to them that we learn Hindi and understand India.
Right.
So, and I think my dad is one of those guys who for 17 years, every morning woke up and he's like, we got to go back. We're going to go back. We're going to go back.
Right.
It took him 17 years, but finally it took like 5 political coups in the country and the country shutting down and them going, go back. And then we went back.
You have no choice. Get out of
Nigeria.
Here. Wow, that's a strange thing as a parent.
Could you do it?
Never.
Yeah?
Never.
It's good for your kids though. Like not at 7, but at like 13, 14.
I think so. I think we live in a time when we keep them as long as possible. And you read these stories of like, Mark Twain leaving home when he was 12 and just went off and was living his life, and you can do it. And it's very coddled in a lot of places here in the States. They're filled with a lot of love. Yeah. But it probably does something to the worldliness, to the hustle, to the...
It does. What it is, though, is it's very equal. That's what I loved about boarding school is, look, everybody that gets to go to a boarding school is above a certain level of privilege, of course. Right. But even within that, there's a massive range of rich kids and kids who can barely afford to go there, etc.
Yeah.
Same uniform, same bed, same shoes, same books. Who your parents are matters very little in your boarding school. Right. You're only seeing them 4 months a year. Yeah. So you really do learn to get on with every type of person. Yeah. Which is the best thing about it, I think.
Do you have relationships with the kids?
My best friend in the world still, so we had corporal punishment in boarding school, which is, just very physical stuff. So we had to take our pants off, and somebody take a hockey stick and like hit us on our ass, and then you do that in a line and then go back to the back of the line. And I was the kid who wouldn't shut the hell up during the,
the punishment.
Yeah, so I'd be like, boom, catch one. I'd be like, wasn't that hard, and then I think at one point during a beating, I took it too far, and a senior just went at me, and my best friend and me we both met where he gave me his pillow because I couldn't sit down because my ass was blue. Right? Oh my God. And he's one of my 2 best friends till date.
To this day. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you were surviving together. You were these.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
But they had such creative punishments in school.
Oh, that's so brutal.
We had something called a slap circle. All right. So it's all of your friends. And you stand in a circle with each other. Right. And then you slap each other.
This is for fun.
This is for fun, right? That's when you're in trouble. And of course, karmically, your best friend will be standing right next to you, right? And so what will happen is you'll give your best friend like a light sort of a touch. And then the senior will come and slap the shit out of you, right? So now you go to your best friend, turn on him completely, and smack the shit out of your best friend. He gets angrier, hits the next guy, hits the next guy. They do 3 rounds and then they reverse the order. Oh, so the guy
who get the revenge.
You get revenge after that. So they really just have to start the circle, and then it just carries on, which is evil but brilliant.
Brilliant. Good education ultimately.
Very good education.
Yeah.
I mean, the Indian schooling system is actually fantastic. It really does prepare you for college very well.
And to be doctors all through the United States.
Right? It is the amount of pressure put on Indian kids to be doctors when they come to the US. Like back home, parents are like, you want to be a guitarist? That's fine. But here they're like doctor, lawyer, engineer. Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah, because you have an opportunity. But your sister's really successful.
My sister's very successful.
So you both went off as little people.
Yeah.
And who needs mom and dad? You got to work, and you're both really successful. She's a filmmaker?
She's a filmmaker and a novelist. So she won something called the National Award for Best Documentary. And that's the equivalent of, I don't want to say the Oscars because that's. Is there like a government award that goes out for arts over?
No.
It's a big deal for us.
Yeah. Our government pretty much pretends there are no arts.
What's Saturday Night Live? We don't know what that is. Are they talking about us?
Yeah.
So she won that.
What was the documentary on?
It was called Fiddlers on the Thatch. And it's about a priest up north in India, in the northeast. And he found, like, in an old British mess hall, he found like a bunch of broken down violins and cellos. And he raised money and he fixed them and he taught street children how to play Tchaikovsky and Beethoven and Indian classical music.
Wow.
So he formed an orchestra with street children.
Oh, amazing.
And now they tour the world. So really good story, right?
Great story.
So she won the national award for that. And I think her third novel is being published soon. So smartest, and I tell dick jokes. This is our this is our family.
Are your parents still around?
Yeah. My mom is with the UN, and my dad is a businessman. So yeah.
And is he still into potatoes?
No, he's now into infrastructure projects.
Okay,
which
good.
is potatoes, really.
Is he? What did he think when you first started getting into
stand-up?
Yeah,
I didn't tell him. I went to college in the States, and I had this teacher kind of come over to me after semester 1, and he was like, I say this to one kid every 5 years, you're meant to be an artist. And his name is Ivan Davidson, and he's like, now shut up and take every course I tell you to take. And this man made an actor out of me, but kind of drove me insane, over 3 years. Like, really.
What did he see? Did he say why?
No,
he just picked it.
He just picked it. Like, I went to him every week and I'm like, you say that to every fucking kid, don't you? It's not just me. But he made me his TA for acting and put me in like 10 plays. And
why did he drive you crazy?
He was very like emotionally focused on what your weaknesses are as an actor. So he really got to the core of who you were, a human being, and then would find a way to artistically break that barrier. Like,
he was in the arts department.
Yeah, he was a theater professor.
He was the theater professor.
But for instance, in scene work, I can't watch violence towards women. For instance, it's something that's I just can't physically or visually see it.
Yeah.
So he cast me as Stanley in Streetcar Named Desire. Right. So
bring back the slap circle.
Right. Firstly, Stanley with an Indian accent, hilarious. Let's be honest. Stella, right? But there's that scene where he comes over the dining table, and it's a violent scene.
Yeah.
So he'd do stuff like that. He'd know that you were weak at that, and then he'd give you that kind of scene work.
Valuable?
Valuable, yeah. I did Equus.
Oh, I did Equus.
Right, so, that's You're Naked on Stage, which is...
Were you were the kid?
I was Alan.
I was the professor.
You were Dysart?
I was Dysart, yeah. But as a way too young of a man.
I was also way too hormonal for Equus. So how we did Equus in scene work was... Equus is about a boy who stabs some horses because he can't get it up, because he can't get the image of the horse god out of his head.
Yeah.
And he's trying to hook up with the stable girl. And so I think it was, I come out stage right, naked, and this girl comes out stage left, naked. We both arrive at the center of stage, kiss, look down, equipment not working,
Yeah.
That's it, fade to black, right?
Yeah.
This girl and me had been hooking up for like 4 weeks before this thing. So equipment worked in every scene, which, like, if you stab horses because you don't get it up, as opposed to if you stab a bunch of horses because you do get it up, like, that's a very different play.
Different perversion. That you're gutting out their eyeballs. So
I'm going to Ivan and I'm like, Ivan, my shit's working. And he's like, you got to focus on your internal monologue. And I'm like, fuck my internal monologue. I'm not this good an actor.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, I'm a young acting student.
I'm 21.
Yeah, and you're hooking up with her. Forget it.
Yeah.
I had to play the professor. I had to play Dysart when I came back to the school to play it the year I graduated.
Okay.
They asked me to come play it, and he's a 50-year-old middle-aged man, who's chain smoking and midlife crisis, and he's going through all his stuff, and I'm I should have been the boy with the naked boy, and I'm like trying to be old, or I'm trying to smoke a cigarette. I never smoked a cigarette before. It was rough.
I had at the end of American drama school, which is very, sitting in a circle and crying and people saying things like emote with your shoulders, and stuff like that. I got into this thing called the Stanislavski School, which is by the Moscow Arts Theatre.
Yeah.
And they do it in Cambridge every summer. It's a summer program. And this is 4 years of drama school in America.
Right.
Many thousands of dollars. And this Russian teacher comes up after 4 years of my studying acting. He's like, acting is very simple. Just read script, believe script, do what the fuck you like. And I'm like, I just spent 4 years doing movement techniques and emoting with my shoulders.
Yeah, he's not really wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ever read David Mamet?
Yeah.
His book on
Glenn Ross is him, right?
Yeah. And then he wrote a book on acting or on directing or maybe just on show business, and he says pretty much the same thing. Learn your lines, say the lines.
Listen.
Yeah, that's all you got to do. When you said you were going to drama school,
Oh yeah, I didn't tell him for the first 2 years.
You just said I'm going to university.
He thought I was studying economics.
Oh, okay.
I went on a reasonably large scholarship package.
What school?
Knox College.
Okay.
And I think school was 27 grand or 28 grand, and we could spend 3.
Right.
So they gave us the rest. The school gave us the rest. In aid and scholarships.
Yeah.
So my dad was like, you got to do economics, you got to be on the dean's list and really make the most of this opportunity. I'm just stellar.
It's so funny.
And so,
he has no idea.
And I called him like 2 years later, the year before I graduated. And I was like, I'm an actor now. And he's like, you made a promise. You're still going to do the econ degree.
Oh, man.
So then I had to double major. So I think my theater GPA was 3.9 and econ is like 2.0 or like 2.1. Yeah. Barely scraped through.
Oh man, you made a promise.
I made a promise.
Yeah. You think there's value to that you followed through on it?
I know what my parents went through even for those $3,000-4,000. My sister had to direct documentaries, and my sister I'm 21, so my sister's 25 or 26.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine starting your film career and every penny that you earn is being sent to your brother so he can study in the States.
Wow.
So I'm acutely aware of there's a large amount of sacrifice that got me here.
Did you get along with her? Was she
I love
when
my
she
sister.
was when she knew that was happening, she still loved you?
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, that guy.
No, my sister, since I was 8 years old, has been this sort of, he's not gonna survive without me. I need to, I remember we got 10 rupees pocket money per week and she'd give me 5 of hers.
Really?
Even though I got 10 of my own.
Really?
She'd give me 5 of hers because she's like, he won't make it. He's weak.
That's great.
There's a story in the special where I go up at a school debate and I insult a senior.
Right.
It's the first time I touch a microphone.
Yeah.
And my sister's beautiful.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'd venture to say 60% of my ass whoopings are just guys who wanted to date my sister and she said no.
And they take it out on you.
But when I was on stage and I was making fun of this senior prefect, and it's the first time I was on the mic and I was 8 years old, the only visual that I have in my head is just of my sister in the audience just going, what the stop, because she knew how I get my ass whooped. So she's protected me my whole life.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So when you get the economics, so you had to follow through. You weren't fighting. You just doubled up.
And it was
do both.
Not even remotely helpful. I graduated the year after 9/11.
Oh, great.
So cut to Chicago, washing dishes and selling kitchen knives door to door the year after 9/11 as a brown guy. I did not
going door to door.
Have you heard of Cutco Cutlery?
No. Oh, what is it?
They're like knives. It's a knife set.
What's the name?
Cutco.
No, I don't think so.
It's really great. They give you a leather strip, and then you you pull out one knife and you make 5 cuts in the leather strips. Then you pile up all the strips and you cut through that shit as well.
Nice.
Then they give you a penny and you take the scissors and cut through the penny. And I had the demonstration down. I was just brown.
Bad timing.
Yeah.
No one's opening their door, looking through the thing. Why did you decide to stay in the state? And what would your dad think at this point?
My dad cut me off when I was 21.
He did?
Yeah, properly. Like
just because that's whatever you were doing.
He's like, no, and did it in the most badass way where I was home for holidays after I graduated. And I was getting back to the States to audition for drama schools and, try and get into grad school. He cut me off 20 minutes before I left the house for an international flight, going back to the States. So, I was leaving for the airport at 8, and he sat me down at 7:40, and he's like, by the way, we're done.
Really?
I'm cutting you off. When you land in the States, you are officially on your own.
Wow.
We're not sending you any more money. Have a safe flight. And then I took off.
Were you kind of expecting that? Or
no, I was devastated.
You were?
Yeah. And then
was it a just this is the way life is going to go? Like he'd been planning that, or was he angry about your
No, he
direction?
wasn't angry at all. I think it's what his father did with him.
And he just said, this is your man now.
Yeah, and I think if I was ever in deep shit, my dad would come through.
Sure.
But
had he done that to your sister?
My sister, I think, was earning even before she got out of college. Like she's ridiculously qualified and intelligent. So, right. Yeah. And I think it gave me fire to like get into grad school. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, I'll show you. I'll get into grad school, and I did.
Yeah.
I dropped out, but I got into the Alabama Shakespeare Festival.
Nice.
So I went from selling kitchen knives door to door to Montgomery, Alabama, where there is one other brown person.
Yeah.
And we saw each other in a parking lot and ran at each other like pandas who had found each other and hugged each other. And I remember I couldn't afford a car, so I would cycle to the theater every day, and it was half an hour. But I'm cycling down I-95 in Alabama with just people screaming all sorts of shit.
I literally was thinking about this last night because I was driving along. I was going to Comedy Magic Club, and it was down this beach road, basically. Yeah. And it's dark and the sea, and there was a guy, and it's kind of slow, and there was a guy on a bike with this blinker, and I'm thinking, I'm like, I'm gonna hit this asshole. Yeah. Like get out of the road. And then I was, have empathy for. I'm like, maybe the bike is the way he can get around. Maybe he doesn't have a car. And then I'd almost hit him again. I'm like, fuck this guy.
I think maybe the way to tell is like cycling shorts. If there's cycling shorts and a helmet, then fuck that guy.
Yeah, then fuck that guy.
But if it's like
a business
cargos or something like that, then maybe he's in my situation.
Work shoes.
No, I had a lot of Osamas and just sort of people screaming all of that shit.
Right.
And
oh man,
I'd met a girl over the holidays, so I didn't make grad school. I dropped out for a girl.
Oh really? Why? Where was the girl?
In India.
She was in India, and you met her in the States?
No, I met her when I was home on holidays, and I was.
And that was it.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Is that the girl you married?
No, I was engaged to that girl. Thankfully, did not work out. But my wife right now is a badass event manager. Like my wife used to run India's Rolling Stone sort of magazine. It's called Rock Street Journal.
Right. So
she's done like Megadeth concerts and like Herbie Hancock festivals and all of that stuff.
Wow.
Married me and is now a crystal healer, tarot reader,
nice.
and runs charities for stray dogs and all of that stuff. So
wow.
we kind of chilled out together. But she's badass.
Yeah, that sounds badass.
Which I think artists need. Like I think neurotic artists need like somebody grounding.
Yeah.
Like, is that your equation? Are you grounder or are you grounded?
I'm pretty grounded.
Yeah.
In ways, and then other ways not. And then she kind of balances that off, I believe.
Yeah. But do you, I mean, there are, because you take various risks with your craft, so do you feel like she enables that a little bit, like enables you to do that? Because like I see your specials and they are very like, you can tell it's severe focus on craft and really going for it,
Yeah. I just think, artistically, I think creatively, I think creative people have a sensitivity that makes you either confused or vulnerable or what have you, just in the everyday, so as much as I'm dialed in and, pretty responsible and get things done, but there's another psychic part of me that is adrift at times. You know what I mean? Like what you're saying, and you kind of have that. Like you're saying, a creative person kind of needs somebody.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could
calls bullshit.
Yeah, but if I could pay you a compliment, what I love about your work is it seems purposed towards giving people a feeling of joy.
Yeah.
And
it's the mission.
Right?
Yeah.
And not a lot of comedians are going after that mission.
Right.
It's a very tough line to pull off. And so when I see it, I'm like, he clearly recognizes joy,
right,
to aim for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if most comics can even recognize joy at that level to be able to orchestrate it. We're all like up in here. I'm like, no, this man has experienced joy and he's trying to lead you towards it.
Yeah.
So that is unique.
Yeah. It's so funny, Veer, because from the outside, you seem very together and very, there's a sensitivity and there's a thoughtfulness, but you do seem like, and it's kind of funny as you paint your picture and you tell your story, because I can totally see that little kid who's screwing around and getting his ass hit more than the other kids.
Yeah.
I can totally see that little devilish part of it, but there's also, and it's a very interesting thing that you sent to boarding school so early and then cut off, and now you're a grown up, go do it.
Yeah.
That's where that grown up part of you is there's a steely part that also is the result of that, which is such a bizarre, again, as a parent.
Yeah.
There's a selfishness in as being the father that I want the kids there in the house all the time and tickling them, even if they're going to turn out to be shitty adults.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there is a real, he was, as cold as that might appear, those moves, it seems like ultimately it was valuable.
I think so. I think if you know what it feels like to be in the Indian community in Africa, where you're inside but you're on the outside, you're very sheltered, very privileged, and then you get to be the African kid in the Indian boarding school, and then you get to be the kid from private school new to public school, then be the Indian guy in Illinois, then be the drama school guy in Bollywood. Right. And then be the Bollywood guy in LA.
Right. At
some point you have to make peace with the fact that you have always been an outsider. And maybe that's your thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you stop the craving of I haven't fit in anywhere since I was 5 years old.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm still not okay with that, by the way. I would love for it to happen just once.
To feel included.
But as much as I hate it, it is slowly becoming, I don't think I've found a comedic voice yet, but it's slowly becoming a perspective.
You've been doing it 10 years?
No, I've been doing it seriously about 10 years, but actually about 14, 15 years.
About 14, 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, from the outside, you definitely have a voice, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I know it really is kind of insane that we can that I was driving home last night with the same feeling that I had 15 years ago leaving that club of, though that worked and I think that was okay. And, all of the stuff of not being clear that you're, again, this is the creativity thing of not being certain. We're never certain. We're never completely certain.
I think that's the best part of it. To me, the 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. before I hit a club, knowing that I have 5 new minutes, that's the best feeling. It's better than doing the 5 new minutes. It's better than, and then the rewritten 5 new minutes. Just that knowledge that I have gold, hopefully,
right.
or shit. And I don't know which one it is. That is undeniably the best feeling in the world.
It is. Absolutely.
And you have to then disguise that when you come into the club, because all the other comics are like, whoa, my life sucks. And, whoa,
Yeah.
But we're all excited.
Yeah. Explain to me Bollywood.
Bollywood is, I'd venture to say, the most well, Bollywood's actually not a very good term. We don't like that term.
Mm-hmm.
So we call it now the Indian film industry or the Hindi film industry.
Hindi, yeah.
Because it's kind of us claiming and going, we're the largest film industry in the world. Why do we have to name this according to Hollywood?
To Hollywood. Right.
We release 5 films a weekend across the country.
It's crazy.
So, maybe we're just our own film industry.
Yeah, right.
It is the most beautiful, magical, responsible form of escapism I've ever seen.
Right.
My country is a very diverse country, and various different types of people.
Yeah.
The same in the darkness of a Bollywood theatre, of a Hindi movie or a regional movie as well.
Right.
It's the most democratic thing there is.
Beautiful.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
And it's, I was telling somebody this the other day, I think, to openly feel that level of emotion or put it on screen, Hollywood has to put people in superhero costumes,
right.
to access that level of escapism.
Yeah. Was it hard to get into it? Are there more actors because there's so much more production?
It's beautiful people and it's beautiful, talented people.
Yeah.
I snuck in there. I really just kind of from the side door. And this is in a time where there was no Adam Sandler career path or Ben Stiller career path.
Yeah.
Where you can be a comedic leading man.
Right.
In our films, the hero of the movie is as funny as,
Right.
he does comedy at a quality level as well. Right. So I ended up shooting a stand-up special, doing a 5-cam setup and really spending my savings on it, making 100 DVDs.
Really?
And making sure they looked really good. If you put it next to Magnolia, it looked like it fit. And then I went to every DVD library where I knew directors rented DVDs from. And I just gave them 10 free copies.
Really?
And that got me 2 auditions and got me into my first movie.
Wow.
So I kind of...
Is it similar, the way... the auditioning?
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's all the same?
It is.
Yeah.
It was... But it was just luck of the Irish.
Wow.
I was a background
it's
extra.
luck, but it's also pretty.
Yeah, it's a punt. You got to bet on yourself a little bit and shoot your shot. But
what was that film like?
It's called Delhi Belly.
Delhi Belly?
Yeah, and it's kind of like India's Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels.
Oh,
like
yeah?
A cult, violent kind of a comedy. But I was doing a movie. I was a background extra on a movie. And it was one of these movies where me and the guy I create stuff with still, we met as background extras on this movie.
Yeah.
We were just 2 young kids, and we got there the first day and we were shooting a song, this big Bollywood star. And they were like, these are your steps, so learn them. We're 2 young bucks, so we learned. We rehearsed all night and we danced pretty well, and if you look at the 3 of us in a frame with the hero in the center, your eye goes to us sometimes, right? So then we showed up 3 days later and they were like, just take 5 steps back. And then we came back 3 days later and they were like, maybe a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
And eventually they stopped lighting us, making us up. So this whole movie, you'll see this hero in focus.
Right.
And 40 feet behind him are 2 guys out of focus just going, we're getting fucked on this movie, man. And it was in the middle of that movie that I got Delhi Belly. So it kind of got me through that. I got the phone call at night.
Right. It's great. When you're talking about just the beautiful women, I did a gig when I was probably 10 years in New York.
Yeah.
I got hired by an Indian couple, had come to Caroline's, and asked me to come to their home, to their apartment, to do stand-up in their living room for 20 people. And they paid me pretty good money.
Yeah.
And I went up and gorgeous place on Fifth Avenue. I mean, I was just like a young comic. I didn't... everything was underground. The Comedy Cellar was underground. My apartment was underground. Everything was the subway was underground. And now I'm in this rarefied air.
Yeah.
And they just got in a circle, in these beautiful chairs. They had a lot of money, it seemed. And the women, all in the traditional dress, and the women were the most beautiful women I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I was floored, and every guy standing behind looked like
I know.
like they were trying to do a comedy show. Weird mustaches and big bushy eyebrows, and they're all standing behind their wives.
Yeah.
And I started pointing that out, how beautiful these women are, and how did they, and I like did one joke too many where they're like, okay, we get it.
Yeah. The distance of beauty between Indian women and Indian men in beauty is tragic. It really is. Just how far apart we are in terms of beauty. I have a gig like that too. I did. I got a call for. Do you guys have like a hen night here? A bachelorette party?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So before the bride gets married, right?
Yeah.
And rich couple in Delhi, their daughter was getting married. These are socialites, right? And so they called me up, and they're like, come perform for our daughter's bachelorette party.
Right.
And I was like, I don't do private gigs. Right? And they're like, you're going to be performing in our basement where we have a 200-seater auditorium where the Dalai Lama has spoken.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I'll call you back. Right? So now I get on Google, and they actually have a basement where the Dalai Lama has performed.
Jeez.
And I was like, I still feel wrong about doing a bachelorette party. And she's like, how about you take your price and you triple it?
Whoa.
And I think at that moment, maybe my triple price was like $800 or something, right? So,
I'll show them.
I'll show them, right? I show up, not a man in sight. And it is 200 of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life.
Jeez.
Of all ages.
Yeah.
I would have paid $800 to do this gig.
Yeah.
They all have silly string and those noise makers. And a group of 200 beautiful women, if there's one man in there, nobody's listening to jokes. You know what I mean? You're a piece of meat, you know? So I literally, every time I cracked a punchline, just mounds of silly string would go flying at my crotch, and I'd have to scrape it off and just kind of shake it off my hand. And I did 45 minutes that way.
You did?
Until just my pants were soaked. Not one silly string hit me above waist, by the way.
They're just crotch shots. Oh my God.
But so worth it.
So worth it. Oh, the beauty. It's just another level. So Bollywood, it seems, I don't really know, and what am I supposed to call it? Hindi?
The Hindi film industry.
The Hindi film
or the
industry.
Indian film industry is fine.
There's so many films. Is it clear? It's kind of a naive question, but is it clear of what the A-list is?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then
they have a level of fame that is unimaginable.
Yeah.
You know?
And when you got into more of the films, did that really give you exposure? Did that kind of blow you up?
I think everything I've done has been sort of action comedy, stoner comedy. You know, like my fame is like I'm like a double-decker bus. You know, like if you see me on the street, you'll be like, I know what that is.
Right.
You may not.
Oh, there it goes.
You know, I don't want to take a ride or anything. I just, I know it, right? So
Right.
I think that's my level of fame.
Right. Did your sister ever think of getting into that, or she was more just documentaries?
She made one documentary. When she won the national award, she made 2 other documentaries and just kind of went, I'm out.
I'm out.
And now writes books. Yeah. But to me, it's like having a Ferrari in the garage and not driving it.
Yeah.
You know, because she's that good.
She's really, Would I be able to find that documentary?
I can send it to you. I can find it and send it to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It sounds great.
Documentaries in general now, I feel like have the pace of a feature film.
I know.
You know?
I know. But it's getting a little, maybe reluctant. Maybe that's not so great. In some instances, there's a slickness to a lot of documentaries, and you're like, you're not fool. It's like you still need that thing that makes documentaries great, which is that story, like you're saying, like it has to have some depth to it.
Yeah, a lot of it is just
getting
footage.
A little tricky. Yeah. You're like, this isn't special.
I saw, what's the last good thing? I saw the Judd Apatow's George Carlin documentary, and that was fantastic.
That was really good.
It was really, really good.
Yeah.
Like to see his different stages of evolution and kind of being newer. Hope you get to go through something like that.
Yeah. It's a really interesting thing. I was just when I was getting coffee, actually, I just take out my phone, and there was a George Carlin talking about fascism.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how 98% of comedians, even though they're great at their time, they kind of fade a little bit. They're just not as funny with their, but because his issues, he's so on point with his issues, he's lasting longer than everybody.
And both sides are posting his clips.
Yes.
You know, he works for the left wing and the right wing in equal capacity, which is insane.
It's insane. It's really insane. Well, I bake bread.
I tell dick jokes and should have been an economics major. You know, we have to make peace with this.
How are your parents at peace with you now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We.
How long did it take?
I was 25. Like, we found each other in this beautiful sort of...
And he cut you off at 21.
Yeah, but 5 years later, I was in India, and I was... I got in a job, which was a great middle ground job for them. I was a huge Jon Stewart fan. And at some point when I was 25, I shot like a news comedy pilot on a kitchen table with like a handy cam. And CNBC put me on their channel. So... At the end of the primetime news bulletin, at 25, I got to do 3 minutes of jokes every night.
Every night?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I'd shoot twice a week and bank them. So then my parents were like, all right, it's funny, but it's still business. You know? It's somewhere in there.
There's still a scroll at the bottom.
But it was embarrassingly immature stuff.
Yeah.
You know, now that I look back at it.
Yeah.
But... you got to be a 25-year-old kid and talk about, you know, power and leaders and businessmen on the news, which is...
And your father's...
He's very proud at that moment in time.
Yeah, it's like, all right.
And you know, you get corporate shows on the weekend because they're all watching that news bulletin. That doesn't hurt either.
Right,
know?
Yeah.
But it was...
that's great.
I used to roll that at 4 o'clock in the morning, before the news studio opened for the morning show.
Right.
So I used to have to wake up at 2 a.m. and go in there and do stand-up at 4 a.m. in a television studio, which is not fun.
And how long would you tape?
I do 2 episodes a day, and then I do a weekend episode. So I'd go in twice a week.
Right.
But I'd be in through the day just kind of writing jokes and scouring the newspapers. And it was 3 minutes of,
That's great. How long did you do that for?
4 years.
For 4 years.
And then I decided Bollywood was hopefully where I'd go.
Yeah.
And I saw this movie where this big Bollywood star, his name is Amir Khan, who's always been front and center on every movie that he's ever done, was suddenly in this ensemble with 3 guys that looked like me. You know, and I was like, maybe I don't have to do the... you know, the chiffon shirt and the six-pack and you know, and maybe there's a place for guys like me.
Yeah.
And then got into a movie that he produced. It was a big hit. And then ended up doing the chiffon shirt six-pack.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That I want to see. Forget your sister's documentary.
Yeah. If you'd like to know the secret to a six-pack, I can give it to you. It's very easy.
What is it?
So you have to be generally in shape, all right? And then you cut out carbs about 4 weeks before the shoot. You cut out salt about 3 days before the shoot. And you cut out water about a day and a half or 2 days before the shoot.
Jeez.
You drink nothing but cold green tea. And your entire body will just... every muscle will be supremely defined. The trick is you're weak as hell. Right?
Yeah, right. You can't remember your lines.
Your eyes have gone back into your socket. So God forbid if it's like an intimate scene or if it's a song where you're supposed to dance, just emaciated and dehydrated, it's tough to pull off.
It's amazing.
And if you have one sip of water, just everything goes
just
back up.
Pops. Oh, man. Thank you for being here. This was really great.
This was fun.
Very cool. It must be pretty cool to be coming back to the States. Like...
Yeah.
with success. Like after the Alabama Shakespeare Festival wasn't great, but it's got to be a pretty cool thing that you've succeeded on both sides of the sea.
Well, I think the fact that there's people here now who are willing to listen to sort of a foreign perspective about things that they don't know, and I get to explain it to them, or their own things.
Yeah.
I remember seeing every comic who came over was always like, let me talk to you about where I'm from, but let me not really talk to you about where you're from.
Right.
And this market is strangely open now to both perspectives.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been a cooler time to...
No, it's true. It really is true. And man, I was so interested in your story. We didn't talk about food at all. Because I was saying we were going to talk about... Give me this. How about this? Give me this one thing. When I'm out here, living here in Los Angeles, and what's the test of an Indian restaurant? Because I can't really tell the greats from like in an Italian restaurant, if you order gnocchi, which is the potato pasta, if they do that well, the rest, they've got their game in order. What's the tell?
Okay. If you see chicken tikka masala on the menu, don't eat there.
Don't eat there.
Don't eat there. Chicken tikka masala doesn't exist.
It's General Chow's chicken.
Yeah, exactly. It's something we made up to get money from the West. So if you go into an Indian restaurant and you see chicken tikka masala, just don't eat there.
Just the whole place is done.
Yeah.
This is great. This is all I wanted.
It's the green M&Ms from Led Zeppelin's Rider. That's it. Just chicken tikka masala.
If it's on there, then you're in a bad place.
If you really like good Indian food, here's what I do, and because I know how much you tour.
Yeah.
I will trade sometimes people tickets for food that their mom cooks for me.
Right, you told me this.
So I'll just be like, I'm coming to Arlington, Texas, and please, one of you will pick your mom, and she has to cook me dinner.
That's so
and
great.
I'll give you free tickets. And you'll end up getting DMs with just people like, this is my mom, and she cooks amazing shit. And just pick one and you'll get good.
The good hook of that is that you're getting a mom involved.
Yes.
Because because I bake a lot, when I'm on tour, people will bring mysterious baked goods. And my wife's like, you don't really eat that, do you? And I'm like, no, but I'm really eating it. It's good to know that a mom is there. That's kind of like, that's like the Surgeon General saying, we're not poisoning you.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Veer. This was really great.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
And I'll see you next time you're through.
Yep.
Thanks, Aaron. All right, kids, that's the big show. I told you it was a good one. Veer Das, he's legit. Go check out the special and check out all of his stuff. I'm going to go try and find his Bollywood movie, his Hindi movie. And also, I'm going to find out if my Indian restaurants are legit or not. Who knew? No chicken masala. It's going to be tough to find. I guarantee there are going to be very few Indian restaurants here that don't have that. And, well, I'm doing my best. All right, guys, thank you for listening and watching. Go to tompapa.com, look up all of the good stuff, and we'll see you next time.